Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local.
But we should probably move on. David is short on time today. Mike, we're going to talk about a big decision that Amazon made this week to shutter all of its bookstores and most of its other brick and mortar stores, except for grocery and presumably Amazon Style, their new showcase store in LA.
All right. So there's been three articles over the last, or three news stories over the last 4 weeks about Amazon and stores. The first one was in CNBC about the sort of cavalier way that they were treating their various stores. Although if you dug in deeply into the article, you realize that with Fresh, where they are building they're taking over existing closed grocery stores, building them out specifically so that they can deliver from that store efficiently, and then also having some retail presence. You realize that there are things that they are focusing on. I think this cleaning out of stores at the most recent article really reflects a sort of recognition that they don't have much to add in selling books at retail. They don't have much to add in selling 4-star rated products at retail. It's like, when I read about those stores, they said they were the most uncurated messes people had ever seen.
You're talking about Amazon 4-star in particular?
4-star.
Yeah, those are totally weird stores. I've been in them, and they're very strange. Sorry.
And so not only are they strange, but they don't add any real value to the project. And so I think they look at groceries as one, a huge market, two, one where they can add unique value on two fronts. One is checkout and the other is delivery. And I think that you will see, there was a recent article in the New York Times about they're taking a Whole Food and finally putting in the Just Walk Out technology into this totally redone Whole Foods. And I think what you'll see is that bifurcated strategy where Whole Foods with Just Walk Out technology versus Fresh with a really strong delivery component as well as Just Walk Out technology. And also the 7-Eleven type store. Those are the three areas that I think they're going to play in. And they can play there because it speaks to their technology strength.
Go ahead.
It also strikes me on the grocery front that those grocery stores are sort of uniquely interesting to Amazon from a logistics perspective, because there's a lot of specialized equipment in grocery stores around food storage and that sort of thing. Whereas books, you can store in any warehouse anywhere, and the delivery component is not as essential in terms of getting them there, getting them to a person's house before something expires. So you don't need as distributed a network of book warehouses as you do with food and beverage. So I agree, Mike. I think that they're going to be a long-term player in grocery, even separate and apart from the Whole Foods brand. And I think that makes a lot of sense for them as a brand position.
I think that I sort of see them in a certain way analogous to Tesla. Maybe that's too grandiose a comparison with the Just Walk Out technology. There are a bunch of companies that are working on it. Amazon is sort of often thought of as the only one that has this, but there are other companies that have this. And so I think Amazon is going to establish a kind of perceived demand for this, or set a competitive bar that others will quickly have to follow. And I think eventually we'll see all of the major grocery chains with at least some version of this in some of their stores. I have yet to be in an Amazon Fresh store, so I haven't experienced it directly. I wonder about, this is a very trivial point, but I think about bagging groceries. If I go into the store and I've got a ton of groceries that I'm buying, I appreciate somebody being there to help bag or to bag them on my behalf, as opposed to some self-checkout. So the dog agrees. She doesn't like bagging. She doesn't like bagging groceries either. But I think I think it's cool to be able to just leave the store without standing in line. But what's that going to be like from that aspect of the customer experience?
So the flip side of that is I frequently bring my own bags from home, and I hate having to unload the bag on the carousel, or whatever it's called, carousel thing that runs through the checkout, and then put everything back in the bag. It would definitely be easier just to put stuff in my bags in my cart and walk to my car.
That could well be. That could well be.
Yeah, so I maybe see it as a positive for reusable bags and reducing the amount of plastic and even recycled paper that we're using.
Well, I
So
also
at BJ's, they don't bag for you right now, which is a Costco competitor that we have locally. And it ends up when you in New York State where you're required to have your own bags or you have to pay extra, it ends up not being a huge impediment to convenience, although I could see where it might be.
sort of one final point before we go to the final item today. Stores are very important for Amazon, regardless of what they are, in order to, they have Amazon lockers in some of the Whole Foods, but really just as a return, they've established a number of partners like UPS Store where you can return products, rather than having to, going to the UPS Store is kind of like having to ship it back. But at Whole Foods in particular, you just take the thing in. It doesn't have to be packaged up and you drop it off. And it's the most convenient thing ever. And so they need to maintain some real world presence for that level of convenience. And they could certainly do it in the grocery stores. So that's fine. But I think that's been a kind of key development for them that's helped them. And also Prime membership helps you in the grocery store. So there's another angle there for them, is that it reinforces Prime, the benefits of Prime as well. But price is another factor here. I don't know if this is a mass market phenomenon. It may be, but it may be for people who are very tech savvy or technologically inclined, or for people who have more disposable money to spend on groceries, because most people are going to go to where they can get the cheapest groceries, and I don't know how that's going to factor into all of this. We'll see, obviously.
We will see.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.